let's jump into it. Who wants to learn about Squarespace? A little bit of a different topic today. All right. Before I teach you guys about Squarespace, I want to teach you guys a little bit about Notion, because Notion is a really, really incredible and powerful note-taking app. And before you get into Squarespace, you should really have a plan. I don't care how that plan unfolds. You can design your case studies in Figma. You can design your case studies in Notion. I don't care. Really, all Notion is a giant note-taking app. I'm going to be putting together a case study for a client that I literally finished a project with the other day. But I have a plan. And that plan is, hang on, this is all messy here. I organize things based on how I'm going to post them in my portfolio. Okay. Now, a lot of this may not be relevant to you. I run a design agency, and we post case studies a little different than I would expect a student to post a case study. But I wanted to show you guys how I plan some of these things out, because making sure that we have all of our content written and our photos ready to upload is all very, very important. Because if you go in and you just start adding images or text to Squarespace, you're not going to end up with a result that you're really, really happy with. And take it from the guy who always says that he's a product design instructor, not because he did everything right, but because he did everything wrong. Take it from me. I spent my time wasted adding things to my portfolio without a plan. And there's a reason why I do it this way now. It's because I have messed it up many, 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 many times. Okay. That's not to say I haven't gotten great jobs from my messed up portfolios, but now I have to think about it strategically, right? How can I reduce the amount of effort that I put into my projects? So here we go. This is the case study we're going to be working with. As you see, I've got a really good plan here. This is a framework and a template that I use relatively frequently. It changes slightly from project to project, but give or take, I want to address, and I haven't filled all of these things in yet, just because, like I said, I wasn't entirely prepared, but I've been working on it all week, so be patient with me. Generally, what I want to try to identify in any case study is what is the client's industry, sector, product, service, something to that effect. So this particular client or project that I worked on is for a company called SPH Medical. And the SPH in that stands for Safe Patient Handling. Okay. It's a very niche market where in the medical field, you want to make sure that patients are taken care of, but also the caregivers are taken care of. So when we're moving patients that are immobile, can't move for themselves, we want to make sure that the caregivers aren't lifting those patients, right? That's not very safe for them. Patients can be relatively heavy. So, and oftentimes there may only be one caregiver that can move that patient. So there are techniques involved in moving those patients and ensuring that, one, the caregiver doesn't hurt themselves, and two, the patient doesn't get hurt potentially more than they already are. So we identify that up here. Then I talk a little bit about the product or the project. So the project that we were brought in was a product line extension and launch campaign for a reusable and inflatable air transfer mattress designed to reduce patient and caregiver injuries by reducing shear force when transferring immobile patients from one surface to another for healthcare supplier and manufacturer SPH Medical. Cool. All right. That's a lot of words. Now let's figure out how to, and again, this isn't exactly a digital product. However, the framework remains the same. Cool. Any questions so far? Okay. So now I'm going to pull you guys over here. Let's talk about mockups for a second. There are, particularly in the digital world, you guys are going to have to mock up your products. There's a couple of different ways that we can do this. In my case study here, towards the bottom, you'll see I've got a nice little mock-up of a marketing flyer that we created for this product. Well, not everyone here is probably a photography expert, right? I kind of gathered that experience over time and did become a photography expert, but I don't expect you guys to be. You guys still need to be able to show your product in the best light. So I want to give you guys a couple of resources that you can use. The first one is Figma itself, particularly for digital products. Use the Figma community down here. Hang on, let me do that a little slower. When you're in Figma, mine probably has a few more workspaces than you do, but you'll get there, don't worry. Down at the bottom, you'll see this little Explore Community tab. Make sure that you have the Figma app installed, because if you don't, the Explore Community button is in a different spot. I think it might be up here, but the Figma app is going to be the way to go. When you click on that, you can say iPhone mockup. Search for it. And when you look at that, there's a whole bunch of iPhone mockups here. We can open that in Figma. Give it 15 to 20 seconds. And what's really nice is that they actually give you some Apple components. That's cool. But here's a bunch of iPhones. You got iPhone 15, iPhone 14, iPhone 13. Great. Now what you can do is you can take these and overlay them on top of your Figma screens and export them from Figma, and voila, you've got an image that you can add to your case study. Cool. And the reason that we would want to do this, as opposed to just throwing the Figma wireframe up there, is that we want to put people in perspective, right? Showing people, let me give you guys an example. Showing people this is great. You can kind of see the landscape. However, it is not nearly as effective as showing them this, right? This puts it in perspective for the user. And even better yet, you can show your responsive designs, right? You can show what it looks like on mobile, tablet, desktop. You can get in a little close. And I would say better yet, try, and I know I do this, but it's because I advertise. For you guys, I would say it's even better if you can show what the product looks like in use. So what I mean by that would be something like this. It's even better to put it in perspective, right? It's actually being shown used, not floating in blank space. So I've kind of shifted my strategy to use this strategy as opposed to a more studio environment. Give or take on the product. There are some products where I'll still do the studio environment. For example, the one that we're working with today, it's a medical client. We like a nice clean white background because sterility. Is sterility? I don't know if sterility is a word. Sterile environments. How about that? But you get the picture. Other than Figma, there are many places where you can go to get mockups. I have quite a few subscriptions. Envato Elements is one that I resisted for a long time, but have become a little bit more attached to recently. It is a subscription-based service. So I don't know, let me see. How much do I pay for this thing? It's about $198 a year. Worth the investment. Get it for a year, download as much as you can, and then bail. Cool. I keep my subscription because I run an agency and our projects vary from time to time. So I might need mockups or images, because there are more than just mockups here. You can download sound effects. You can get music, video templates, things for Photoshop and Illustrator, all kinds of stuff. There's even some Figma templates in here. So you can download these and work with them. And once you've subscribed, you can download as much as you want. So Envato Elements is really nice. Another one is Design Cuts. These guys are where I started. And unfortunately, I've paid so much money to them that I've actually kind of downloaded everything that I need. So I ran out of stuff on here. However, what's really cool, if you ever get into print design or anything like that, even some fonts you can use, they do bundles. I think it's this one. So here, actually, they've got an iPhone 15 mockup bundle. And this one you don't have to subscribe to, but you pay for you pay for what you need, basically. So your cost ends up being a little bit higher in the long run if you're downloading a bunch of assets at once or need a bunch of assets. But their mockups are really, really high quality, sometimes even higher quality than Envato Elements. So it's a battle you can pick if you want to. Lots of times, I'm trying to figure out why. Sometimes they do really, really awesome font bundles. So if you want to get a bunch of fonts at one time, let me sign in here. It's probably not the password. Maybe. Anyways, they have a bunch of font bundles and you can download like 20 or 30 fonts at one time for like $30. Worth the investment. If you know anything about fonts, some of them can go for thousands of dollars for a family. So great place to source fonts and some ad hoc mockups. Of course, some other places are like Shutterstock and things like that. You're going to have to be a little bit more astute with Photoshop and things like that. And then, of course, there are free mockups in some places. They tend to be a little sketchy, and a lot of times they might be stolen. So pirated mockups. I don't generally recommend using those. You guys are creators. You want to get paid for your work. Also, there's like an added risk of downloading some nefarious software to your computer. So again, your choice, but I have generally instructed students avoid free mockups unless it is being offered on something like Behance or something like that, and you're downloading something from another creator who is offering that product for free. That's generally okay. Any questions on mockups and where to find mockups more specifically? Cool. Now, a lot of the mockups that I just mentioned, you are going to have to be a little savvy with Photoshop. Now, generally, they tend to be pretty easy to work with. Photoshop isn't something that you necessarily need to know about. However, I'm going to give you guys a quick little download. Once you get into Photoshop, most mockups will have a bunch of layer separations. And there's not a whole lot of them that you need to know. However, these are all of the layers expanded. Sometimes you might want to change the background color. You can double click on that, come down here to color overlay, and let's say I want it to be red. There you go, you got a red background color, right? Super cool. Not every mockup has this. Sometimes the backgrounds are flattened, or you can't change the background color, things like that. So there are little things that we can do to change that around, but that expands the scope of today's lesson. The other thing that you'll need to look for are what are called smart layers. So let me collapse these really quick. Notice that there's a bunch of layers here. The only ones that you'll ever need to touch, for the most part, are going to be these ones that have a little page icon next to it. Okay. Now, don't get it confused with these ones, because if I turn this off, all it's doing is adjusting the lighting. Same thing here. I don't need to touch those. Those came with the mockup, so I'll turn those off. Also, sometimes they give you different textural features. So like, what type of paper do you want? Do you want it to be matte or glossy or recycled? Things like that. I don't need to touch those. I'll just collapse those. So all I'm looking for are these ones here that allow me to replace what's in the mockup. Cool. Now, the way this looked when I opened it was like this. So let me give you guys an example here. This one. So hang on. What's going on? Save. There we go. So that's what that page would have looked like before I added my stuff to it. Cool. There's a lot you can do in Photoshop. Again, a little transcendent of the scope of today's lesson, but any questions on what I showed you there?
Hey, Cameron, is there an alternative to Photoshop?
Good question. No. not that does what I mean, well, hang on, let me rephrase that. Yes, there is. Use the Figma mockups because those ones you don't need to do all of this. Okay. However, as of right now, and it's only going to get better with time, Figma mockups are relatively limited, right? So you're going to be limited to things like iPhones and Androids and things like that, which is fine because that's the space that you guys are working in. You'll even see mockups in there for like MacBooks and workbooks and things like that. Use those. If all you're doing is designing digital products, great, use those. If you run into, so here's a situation that I run into a lot. I don't like reusing mockups because it gets repetitive, right? Every product is a little different. I like to show my products in their unique light. So yes, you can use Canvas, or I'm sorry, yes, you can use, sorry, Onjiro, I was reading your message. Yes, you can use Figma. However, I would say that for the most part, if you want to do more of like those lifestyle mockups where people are actually holding the devices, I haven't quite seen any of those on Figma yet. Those ones are more Photoshop oriented. Wanjiru, you asked about Canva.
The accuracy in Canva is non-existent.
Exactly. Unpopular opinion, there are some great things that Canva can do. I don't like it. I would actually,
cheaper solution.
It is a cheaper solution. Actually, I'm gonna debate that because Photoshop you can get for like $9 a month or something like that. Yes, if you just get the Photoshop app, I think maybe it's 20. It might be 20.
I've just watched Adobe products escalate their pricing so dramatically over the last 10 years that I'm mad at them.
Oh, trust me. We all are. When there was a there was a moment in time where Adobe was going to buy Figma for some outrageous like $100 billion or something like that. Like it was very Dr. Evil, like $100 billion, right? It was all of us kind of like sighed this pathological, right? Like we didn't want Figma going to Adobe because Adobe is complacent, right? They haven't updated anything and they literally strip a crazy amount of money from us every single month. I think my Adobe subscription is something like $600 a year for every employee that I give a subscription to. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then the client wants to cut down your budget for every single project. So,
well, and it's not the only subscription you need. So when you start compiling all those subscriptions, you have an astronomical amount of money to pay monthly. See, Photoshop is 23 and that's fine, but
and I would say for you guys, and this is regular pricing. For students, it's a lot cheaper. I think it's $20 a month for the entire Adobe plan for students. So milk that for all you can get. Also, I'm an educator, so I get that student benefit. But that said, milk that student discount for all you can get, because Adobe student discount is hefty, so it's good.
Okay. Thank you.
But yes, $20 for Photoshop and Lightroom together, which is kind of dumb that it's more expensive to just get whoever's in charge of pricing at Adobe. They don't understand marketing tiers, but I'll digress there. Okay, let's talk about Squarespace. Any other questions on Photoshop or anything like that? Adobe Express. Good question, Santiago. Yeah, it works. I've been invested in the full version of Adobe for such a long time that Adobe Express feels minimizing to me. Also, it's almost Wanjiro, this kind of comes back to you. Adobe Express is full service Adobe meets Canva. So it's almost like a down-baked version of Adobe. The issue that you're going to run into, though, is that a lot of those mockups aren't supported by the Express version of Photoshop. So, give or take. However, Adobe Express has some really cool things where you can, here, let me show you these. I use it so infrequently, I don't even know that I know how to log into Adobe Express. It's kind of wild. Where's that thing that I kind of threw together? I wanted to putz around with Adobe Express. No, okay. And then see, there's this other half of it where it's like, where do my files go? Start from scratch. Tons of templates. Yeah, I don't even know where my stuff is. Let me just try this. Great. Your stuff? Is it in here? Yeah, okay. So here's some of the things that you can do in Adobe Express. Let me in. Let me in. Okay. So I wanted to putz around with this. You can animate some cool things. Awesome. But I would say this is about the use case for Adobe Express, is some like social media stuff. Canva and Adobe Express is expressly designed for social media. So I would say use it for what it's designed for. All right. Squarespace. That's what we came here for, right? I've already got us on some tangents. I'm going to pull up my portfolio here, and this is the back end of what Squarespace looks like. So you've got all your pages. For the most part, you're going to be working in your website tab here. You've got website, selling, marketing, contacts, analytics, scheduling. To design it, we're just going to be working in the website tab. Now, I already have a bunch of tabs set up, but I want to tell you what the difference between these tabs are. You're going to see that you've got a couple of different options. You can start with a blank page. You can work with a layout, so something that's pre-built. Chances are you won't need scheduling. You can do a blog, you can do a store, a portfolio, events, videos, course, which you have to pay a little extra for that one if you wanted to launch courses of your own. Member site, which is basically where members have to pay to access your site. You probably don't want that for a portfolio. A dropdown and a link. So give or take here, you're only going to be using a couple of things. Maybe some blank pages, maybe a blog, maybe a portfolio, and maybe some videos, potentially a dropdown. Now, there's something that I want to tell you guys, because there's an obvious answer here that isn't what it seems. If you were looking to add a portfolio page to your website, out of these, which would you choose? Anyone jump in?
Well, there's a line item for portfolio.
Okay, cool. That's deductive reasoning, right? That seems obvious. Here's the thing. You can do that. I'm going to advise you to do differently. And here's why. The portfolio section, let me just show you what that does. One, it's going to give you a bunch of pre-built templates. Okay. And it's going to serve itself like a portfolio. You have projects, and when you open those projects, you get text elements and photos. Great. That's all you need, right? Here's the problem with these. One, you cannot show or hide these. Here's what's going to happen. I'm looking ahead into your future. You're going to go and work for a really awesome company, and chances are when you go and work for that company, you're going to get an NDA. An NDA is a non-disclosure agreement. Now, what that NDA is going to position upon you is that you can't share any intellectual property with any outside people. There's a problem there. We're designers. We have to show people the work that we've done, right? That's how we get jobs. So there's two approaches that you can take here. One, you can lock down your website. So if I wanted to do that, let me delete this here really quick. Actually, I'm going to leave it. If I wanted to lock down my website, I can change the availability to password protected. What that means is that I can enter a password, and only people with that password will be able to access my website. I don't necessarily want that because I run a business, right? So I want to keep my work public. But that's an option that you can do. Here's my perspective, and this doesn't make it right or wrong, but if you're looking to get a job as a designer, password protecting your portfolio is just another layer that recruiters and hiring managers have to go through, right? You don't want to make it hard for them. You want to make it easy. So the other option that you can do is, rather than using a portfolio, use a blog. And here's why you would do that. One, like I mentioned, you cannot show or hide these projects. So if you're on the prowl for a job and you've got some IP stuff, an NDA going on, this would subvert my ethical approach, but we have to do what we have to do to get jobs sometimes. So my recommendation would be to white label the project, which basically means remove the IP from it, still show the work, but remove things like the logos and the brand and all of that kind of stuff, replace it with something generic. And then you can still show that work generally. Double check with your own legal people. I'm not here to give legal advice, but generally you can still show that work. And if it became an issue, what you can do is you can come into the settings, go to options, and just unpublish it. That's the big difference between a blog and the portfolio page. Otherwise, there's no difference. You can use either one. I like being able to do the blog post because if someone came to me and said, hey, we can't show this, right? Because I also work with clients and they have their own legal quarrels. So if my client came to me and said, hey, we ran into a legal trouble, you might want to take this off your website, at least for the time being, I can say, great, I'll just unpublish it, right? No one can see it. We're all good. Everyone's happy. No problems. Cool. Ariana, what you got?
I have a question because I have Squarespace too, but I haven't used the blog option. But is it also possible to lock down a specific project? Like you can like just make it password.
Not in portfolio mode.
Okay.
And also not in blog mode. What you can do is you can password protect a certain page. So here,
Okay.
you can add that password protection to that entire page. However, if you want to do what you're mentioning, where you would lock down just a specific project, then I would recommend build your projects as pages, individual pages.
Okay.
Because then you totally could do that, where you just add a password to that page.
Got it. Yeah, because I'm curious because I have a project that I'm currently working on for my like 9 to 5 job, and like I wanted to break down the process based on like what I've learned in the boot camp of like, like specking and whatever the case is, but I know that I'll probably have to make it password protected. So I was just curious.
That's a very, very, very great strategy. And it's good that you're thinking about that. And that's where it's going to depend. You can approach it both ways. You can password protect the project. You can password protect the entire site. You can password protect just the work page. But yes, that is absolutely an option. Another way to do it is you can choose not to link certain pages, so it's not listed in the primary navigation. If you choose to do that, though, be sure to come in and under the SEO, hide search results. Otherwise, people will still be able to find it on Google and access it that way. Cool.
Hey,
Thank
Cameron,
you.
this is only in a situation where you have an NDA with a specific client, correct?
Correct. I mean, I'm sure there might be other use cases, but I would say that that's the primary use case would be NDA, some sort of IP agreement, things like that. Non-disclosure agreement, things like
Yeah.
that.
I don't have big enough clients for that.
Yeah, so here, let me give you guys a situation, because remember, I'm a product design instructor, not because I did everything right, but because I did everything wrong, right? I got in trouble when I was at PetSmart because I put work that I had done at PetSmart, like I literally did the work, I put it on my portfolio. That seems logical, right? However, I was young, dumb, and stupid and didn't read the fact that I was under an NDA, and they weren't big fans of that, right? So I had to take it all down. I had spent weeks putting a case study together for a really massive project. And because I had done it in portfolio mode and not in blog mode, I had to delete it. So it sucked. I spent a bunch of time doing that. And then now I had to delete it, right? I couldn't, and it wasn't like a, hey, do this in your own time, get it down. I was literally brought in with HR and they were like, delete it now in front of us, right? So there wasn't like a, well, hang on, let me just save everything really quick. It was a, oh shit, sorry. So protecting you guys from that, one, double check and make sure that you're on an NDA, because if you are, be fucking careful. Two, if you are on that NDA, it doesn't mean that you can't show the work that you're doing. You just have to be smart about it. Okay. And everyone has to show their work. Now, just because I am very litigiously cautious, I don't put that work that I've done on my portfolio for PetSmart because I've been explicitly told, do not have this on your portfolio. Right. But that doesn't mean that I don't show it to people. I can still take an iPad to my interview and say, here's some other stuff that I've done that you didn't see in my case, in my portfolio. Okay. That is also acceptable. Have something though to get you in the door. Okay. Cool. Any other questions on like page orientation, things like that? Cool.
I just wanted to mention real quick, if you become very, like, not prolific, I'm not quite sure what the benchmark is for getting into the Squarespace Circle membership. But once you do, you get, I think, like 6 months to use a link to demonstrate to a potential customer. And so what I've done that's worked historically for me, rather than using Envato or Design Cuts or the other prototyping that you've used, is I actually build out a skeleton site and send it to the client, and then use that as the marketing tool.
And I would absolutely do the same thing. What the mockups are more helpful for is gaining new business.
Okay.
Right? Because they want to come to one place to see all the work, not go to a bunch of other websites to see the work.
Right.
So mockups are more of a marketing tool for you, not necessarily for the client. I don't show my clients mockups either unless they ask for it. But yes, Squarespace Circle. That's actually a good question. I don't know what the benchmark is for that, but I have like, I think I started seeing that after I had designed like 3 or 4 websites, something like that.
Yeah, I think it used to be a lot longer than it is now. If you just use Squarespace without being in the membership, they give you 14 days to use that link. But I have a lot of playtime because I have like over 70 live websites with Squarespace presently. So they give me a lot of flexibility. And if you start designing more, and I did a pretty comprehensive research process when I decided to work with Squarespace, and thought that that was the most user-friendly platform for the demographic that I was targeting.
Yep. Yep.
That was
And then Ryan, I see your question in here. Does Squarespace let you use custom size banners or sides or only within the middle? I think I understand what you're asking here by this is like, do they hold your hand on requiring you to use this certain aspect ratio when it comes to uploading images? Am I correct there?
I'm sorry, I've been muted this whole time. Yeah, that should be the correct way.
Okay, cool. Give or take, you can do anything you want to do. So for example, let me come back here. Actually, let me show you on this page. So I've got these images here, and if I wanted to, well, hang on, that was actually a really bad example. I've got these images down here, and I have them sized down, but if I want to make them bigger, I can just click and drag. So you're kind of stuck to the grid, which you want to be anyways, but the grid is adjustable. That's nice. And two, no, you're not necessarily limited to an image size when you use an image block. So you can see here that I can add blocks, and we'll go through this in a second. But
we're not seeing your screen, Cameron.
thank you. Okay, down here. So when I click on this, I can rescale the size, and you see all those little pill shapes in the background? That's your grid. So you can rescale the image, and it's going to stick to the grid, which is nice. You want that anyways, but you can make it any size you want, really. So no, it won't confine you. However, there are some situations where, for example, if I'm using a what's called a gallery, I think is what they call it. Let me pull one up. So if you use an image gallery like this, basically where you just drag and drop a bunch of images into one space and let it create the grid for you, yeah, it's going to lock you into a specific aspect ratio. And you're going to need to choose whether you want it to be vertical or horizontal. But I only use this for my photography projects, where that's literally all I did was photography. So cool. Hopefully that helps. Did that help for you, Ryan?
Yep. Thank you, Cameron.
Cool. All right. Let me show you guys how to get. Let me show you guys how to get a portfolio piece in there. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add a new blog. All I did was press the plus button. Pretty easy. Now I can title that blog. I title my blogs based on the name of my client. So here it would be SPH Medical. Now, here's the reason why I told you guys have a plan. I have what are called sector and discipline tags and categories. So this is where I have to refer to my little setup that I've done for myself. Where is it? Sectors and disciplines. Oh man, I moved them. Okay, hold on. Give me a second. Because now I have to remember. I've been working on changing this. So at the top, work. There we go. So at the top are what used to be tags, I think. Set. Sorry, I'm just verifying something really quick. Oops. Settings. Options. Else. And I didn't. Okay, so no, those are the categories. Okay. Sectors should be tags. And disciplines should be categories. There we go. Okay, so we've got tags and categories, and this is how you can make your products or your case studies a little bit more findable. I've chosen my sectors and tags. Yours might be a little bit different. However, let me come back to my case study here. One second. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so here are the sector tags and the discipline categories. So I want to add healthcare, manufacturing, and industrials to my sectors. And those will go in the tags here. So healthcare. And then there we go. And then once I get to the categories, I want to add these categories. So the sector is the sector that my client is in, the business that they conduct. The discipline is the work that I did for them, right? That's the way that I've systemized that for myself. And I'll show you guys why this is important in a second. So industrial and product design. Photography and video production. So take some time to figure out what these look like for you and then build upon those. I can spell. There we go. Book and catalog design. And then film and motion graphics. There we go. So now I've got all of my categories set up and my tags set up. And notice that we're still in draft mode. So no one can see this until I hit publish. Okay, that's the beauty of this. I'm not going to worry about SEO, at least not yet. You can if you want to. However, in the description, I'm going to take this little project description and I'm going to drop that in there. And that's just going to help diversify the SEO and pull certain keywords that you want it to pull. Social image. I like adding a social image and I like making it a basically my cover image for the blog post. So let's see, which one was I going to do? I think I was going to do this one. Give it a sec. Always takes a minute to upload. Beautiful. And then I'm not going to share it on anything yet, but you can automatically push it to Google Search Console, LinkedIn, and Pinterest when you're ready to push it and launch it. I tend to do that process manually because I want it to launch on in a certain way, and I want to write a little blurb about it. Featured image. This is ultimately what becomes your cover image for the blog post. So you want it to be something that is eye-catching and identifiable. I'm going to make this one that guy. And then in the excerpt, I'll also add the project description. So just a little maintenance to do before you actually get into designing the work. Okay. My URLs, I'm actually changing my URL schema just because I ran into a situation where I had clients that came back multiple times in a row, and I don't know why I didn't think about this, but if I name the blog post by the client name, every time the client comes back, you're going to run into this issue. So I do it by date first. So 2024-03, no, sorry, 0203. And then I'll put a dash and then SPH medical. So you've got the date and then the client name. You can add more stuff here if you want to, but it just has to be separated by dashes or all one word. Dashes is more appropriate. I'm the author, so we're good. We did everything there. Hit save. Now we can come back in here. These are those tags and categories that I was mentioning. So if I were to click on photography and video, it's not going to work. I don't know why that didn't work. Let's try again. You know what? Let me come back to this one.
Refresh your screen.
Yep, that was exactly what it is. So if I click on education, I can come here and see all the projects that I've done in the education space, right? Same thing with the categories, and I'm actually working on switching these. I want these to be at the top and my tags to be at the bottom. So I'm going to switch those. But if I want to see all the projects that I've done for brand identities, there you go, right? So it helps you sort and filter in a way. Once I have more projects, I'm going to add those sorts and filters to the main page. Anyways, that's a little semantic. Any questions so far? I know I'm downloading a lot. Good thing it's recorded. Go back. Go for it, Hillary.
I'm just going to say that it's very important for everybody to realize that these categories and tags that you've created need to be exactly the same every time. And when you start to type them, they'll show up if you've already identified them. It looks like today you've created some new categories and tags that you've never used before. But if you were to do like industrial and use the ampersand and product design, that would actually be a different tag than if you wrote out the word and. So if you want everything to filter properly, you have to label exactly the same every time. That's all.
That is correct. And that's why I've created that list too, so that I know exactly what my tags and categories are. And yes, you're right. So my tags and categories, I'm going through and I'm revamping them. Just so if you've been through module 7, you know what a card sort is. I went through based on a lot of my case studies, and I asked people to read them. And then I brought them together and I put together a card sort and said, great, organize those case studies that you read into categories. So what would that be? An open card sort, right? So they gave me those categories, and then I filtered down and I said, great, here's a bunch of categories that I synthesized from the information that you guys gave me. Let's get back together and let's do a closed card sort. Here are the categories. I want you to take these and organize them. So I'm working on that. Information architecture is what that would be called, right? All right, let's jump into it. So now I've got my plan and I've got my Squarespace. Let's make this easy for ourselves. Let's do a split window where I've got Notion on one side and Squarespace on the other. Because now all we're going to have to do is, let me collapse this. Go away. There we go. I can start taking these. Let's add this video. I have this video that
in this video, we will introduce you to
talks about the product. So let's add that video in here. I've already got all of my images saved and all of my videos saved. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a block. This little plus button here, that'll pull up all your different blocks that you can use. And they've got text blocks, image blocks, buttons, galleries. This is that image gallery that I mentioned will kind of hold your hand a little bit. Video, forms, spacers, audio, newsletter, et cetera, et cetera. It goes down the list. The ones that you'll probably use the most are probably these ones right here. Maybe use a line, maybe an accordion. You might need some scrolling text, but for the most part, everything you're going to need is going to be up here. Cool. So I want to add that video up at the top. Click add. And fun fact, I already have this video in here because this is actually a product line extension. So we've used this video on a previous case study, and I just want to add it back in. So I'm going to pull from my library as opposed to uploading a file. There it is, instructional video. Add that. Now, part of my design system on my website is that I try, and I'm not always good at this, but I try to put a video at the top. The reason that I do that is that I want the motion to capture people and pull them down the page, right? So what I end up doing is I mute the video because we don't want the video to be playing sound at people when they come on my case studies. That's a little annoying. And if you have multiple tabs open, you can never find it. Very problematic. I turn on autoplay and I loop the video. That way it automatically plays when they come on the page, and the video will just loop until you either pause it or leave the page. So cool. We've got that in there now. And then I can start taking the text and adding it in. I'll also add another image now. This one's a new image, so I'm going to upload the file. And then I'm going to find this image here, which is that guy. Just give it a sec. It uploads. Voila, there you go. Now, one, you should absolutely add image descriptions. I didn't have enough time to add those. But even more importantly than the image description, you absolutely need to add alt text. I have a tendency to make my image descriptions and my alt text the same thing. It's just a good habit, and typically they are similar. Again, I didn't write the image descriptions, so I'm going to go back and do that later, but this is a mandatory step. Now, Squarespace is pretty smart. They're going to take your image name and they're going to, if you don't put any alt text here, they're going to make the alt text your image name. So if you're pretty descriptive in your image names, that's fine, but that doesn't always help you in a file naming structure. So, plus I have a file naming structure for my agency. We use the job number, we use the job name, and then the shot number, and then I'll add a little description at the end. But always add alt text. If you're in module 1, you should know what this means. And if you haven't done lab 1.2, I think it is, you'll find it out in a second. Cool. So we've got an image in there. Now we can scroll down, copy that, add a text section, paste it in, and it's literally this simple, guys. Let's do something a little bit more complicated. Let me get this guy in there. There it is. Perfect. Give that a sec. So here you can see that I have 2 images side by side. So let's figure out how to do that really quick. I'm going to add a text block. Paste that in. Now I want to add 2 image blocks, one on top of the other. And I want to hear from you guys. If you had to put these images side by side, how would you do it? Just give me a guess. Hillary, not you. You're too smart for this. Jump in. Tell me how you would do it.
Would you just click and drag?
Yep. So just grab it, pull it up, voila. It's that easy. And if you saw, let me pull it down. So if I wanted it to go back to being on top of each other like this, great. There you go. Right? But you'll notice that when I pull it up, it puts a little bar on the side, right? That bar is telling you where that image is going to go. Now be careful, because if you do this, what's going to happen? It's going to make an entire right-hand column on the side of your entire thing. Trust me, I do it all the time. It's easy to fix. You just grab the image, scroll back to the bottom, put it below, and then put it to the side. Cool. All right. A little complicated, but nothing too crazy. Let's add the images here. So I've got my belt buckle and I've got the strap, and you can upload multiple images at a time. Cool. Now let's get a little bit harder. We need another text box here, but you'll notice that when I added the text box, it stuck to the 2 columns that I had set up there. I only want it to be 1 column. So now I can just drag it to the bottom, and it's acting a little funky. You kind of got to get it in the right spot. So watch out for that. Once it's there, I can copy my text, plop it in. Now let's say I just want to go through and add all of my images. Better yet, let's add all of our text. So hang on, let me delete this. Let's just say I wanted to add all of my text in all at once. Did I spell patience wrong? No, it's giving me advice. I don't want your advice right now. There we go. Am I that bad of a speller? No, it's just giving me advice. Okay. So there we go. I've got all of my text in, but hang on, I missed all the pretty images, right? Where did I leave off? Here? Yeah. So now when you hover over, you're going to see that you've got new breakpoints, right? You can add your images in there. So click on that, add an image, upload file, and I want this guy. There we go. Now I can click here, add an image, upload. It's very, very repetitive. By this point, hopefully you know how to upload an image. Yeah? All right, we skip 3 paragraphs. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and below products, we do another image split. So I'll add an image, add another image, put them side by side. Now, let's do something wrong here. There's that. There's that. So I uploaded these and oh crap, I put them backwards, right? Not a problem, just drag them. Easy. The other option is if you wanted to switch them, this would be the longer route, but you can go to replace, select from library, choose that one, give it a sec, and then choose this one. There we go. Problem solved. Cool. And then last image, we'll add here. Where is it? There it is. Perfect. How does everyone feel? Any questions on that? No? Cool. Awesome. So now I'm going to hit save, but notice that I didn't hit publish. Be careful with that. Only hit publish when you're ready to hit publish, because what that's going to do is that's going to launch it. So when you want to publish it, you can schedule it, or you can publish it immediately. I generally schedule it because I like to post my case studies on Fridays. That's just the way I like to work on it. You can also backdate. So for me, since I like to post mine on Fridays, but I am ready to launch this case study, give or take a few alt text, I can go to settings, options, status, and published. And then I can backdate it for yesterday. Hit save. And really quickly, pop that link in the chat. Everyone go check it out. Tell me what you think. You've just launched a case study. Any questions? Does that seem fairly simple? Is anyone looking at this and saying, oh my God, I can never do that?
I guess my question is, how do you even get to, like, can you start from scratch? Like, how do you get here?
So this is what every single Squarespace homepage is going to look like. And actually, let's do it. Let's make a new page. So this is what it's going to look like when you sign in. You're just not going to have all of these websites. If you've never made a website with Squarespace, you won't have any of these. It'll just be blank. You'll create a website. And I generally recommend build your own template. It's a lot easier. And you're not forced in a little box. It's going to ask you a couple of questions. Just get through them. It's going to set everything up for you. Amy's Awesome Antiques. There we go. By the way, when you start that business, let me know. I would like trademarks.
Deal.
So here you can take some time. It's not going to let you skip through this, but take some time and figure out what you want on your homepage. Do you want an intro section? Are you selling products? If you're building a portfolio, probably not. Kind of offering services, but you don't really need that. So I would just say, put the intro section. You'll need a footer. You'll probably want someone to be able to contact you. You might want to talk a little bit about yourself, and give or take, that's it, right? Cool. It's spit something out at you, and you'll be fine. So hit next. You can choose a generic color palette. I usually say start in black and white, black and white. And the reason that I say that is because think of it like a mid-fidelity, right? You can add your color later. Get the framework done first and then add your color. So start in black and white. You can choose your fonts. They give you some fonts, but you can change them. You can use any Google font, and I think they've even extended it to Adobe Typekit fonts. So that's nice. I don't know. I'm building an antique business. Serif feels right, but we'll modernize it with a little bit of sans serif. How about that? Let it jiggle and jabble. There you go. Your template's ready. It'll ask you if you want to use Squarespace AI. Knock yourself out, but ChatGPT is cool. Describe your new site. Antiques, duh. There we go. Choose a writing style, neutral, whatever. Well, no, professional. We'll go professional. Cool visuals. Loading, 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 loading.
Hey, Cameron, did you ever use Squarespace 7.0?
Yes, I still have sites on 7.0. And
Do you miss it?
no, not at all.
Really? Okay. That's
No.
interesting. I do.
Although I do wish that they gave a more natural migration from 7.0 into whatever the heck we're in now. Because I want to get some of my older clients' stuff into the new version. So this is what it's going to spit out at you just naturally. Now you can come in here and you can add sections. So it'll give you some pages. You can delete those. Doesn't matter. You don't want them? Get rid of them. Problem solved. This is the bare minimum. And you can come in here and you can say, you know what? I hate that page. I hate that page. And I hate that page. Or section, rather. They're called sections. Now, you can build it from the ground up. Let's see. You guys are going to need a work page. Oops. Hang on. Let's do what I told you to do. You're going to need a work page. So that'll be a blog, typically. We'll do this guy. Title at work. Ta-da. And then you're going to need probably an about page. So let's use a layout for that one. About pages don't have to be hard. You can go to about and say, huh, what looks like me? Well, this one I can put a nice little headshot over there, introduce myself, and talk about myself a little bit. Let's do that one. There we go. Drag that down. And then probably some sort of contact page. So let's use another page layout. Let's go to contact. And I mean, you don't really need a contact form or anything, but you can use one if you need to. This one's kind of nice. Contact. There we go. So now everything's there. And notice, watch the navigation up in the top right here. Right now it says work, about me, contact. If I want contact to be first and work to be last, all I have to do is move them around over here and it automatically moves them over here. Cool. Now, what if I want my homepage up here? You can drag it up from not linked to up here, and now it's up there. Move it around, whatever works. Click and drag, super easy. Now, homepage, little dicey, right? Don't have a whole lot to show for it. So maybe you want to introduce yourself. This one kind of follows your about page pretty nicely. You've got a nice headshot and a little area to talk about yourself. Perfect, problem solved. Now you can, let's introduce your work. Now, I'm going to show you guys something that is an added benefit of using the blog feature. You get what are called summaries, okay? This is how I've added my projects to my homepage. Otherwise, you have to add images and buttons and all kinds of stuff, and it makes it crazy. So if you want to bring some of the blog posts that you put on your work page to your homepage so that you're featuring some of your more recent works, add a blank section. And you can design in here whatever you want. I'm going to add a block. And down here, you've got this little summary feature. I click on that. It's pulling in all the blogs. Let me change it from my work page. And you can change the number of items that it shows. So if I want it to show 30, I can have it show 30. I can center everything. If I want it to be centered, I can left align it. If I want it to be left aligned, I can choose, I don't need to show the title. I don't need the featured image. Or I want the title and I don't want the excerpt. Cool. So that's how I show my work. And you can add however many sections here that you want. Does that help, Amy?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Awesome. Cool. Any other questions? Cool. Held you guys captive for an hour and a half. How are we feeling? Good.
Yeah, feels good.
Hey, Cameron, do you mind? I have a really great resource, and she's a Squarespace trainer.
Yeah.
I mean, she definitely charges, but I'd be happy to share her link. She's solid. I've dealt with her for the last 10 years of my life. If I run into any obstacles, she's got an online situation where you can book a half hour or an hour with her, and she will help you walk through anything.
Yeah,
Fully
feel free
vetted.
to share it. Fun fact, I am actually a Squarespace certified designer myself. So if you guys
Okay.
need anything rather than paying someone, I mean, y'all have paid a buttload of money to be here anyways, just shoot me a message.
I love that. Okay, never mind on Brittany.
I'm sure she's awesome and she might know some things that I don't, but always good to have resources.
Okay, cool.
And then as far as launching Figma files, Wanjiro, I saw your message here. As far as launching Figma files on Squarespace, it's exactly the same thing. I mean, you're not going to, it's just a plan, right? So something I want to tell you guys before I switch topics. When you're designing in Squarespace, you have to design desktop independently from mobile. You don't have to worry about this so much for blog posts. But for this homepage that I just added, you've got this little mobile toggle. And if you saw that little blue icon that was there, I don't know that I can get it back. Hang on, let me save.
Wait, I don't think we can see your screen again.
Oh crap.
Trying to
Okay.
show this.
Nope, this is good. Okay, so you guys can see that now? Okay, I can't get the blue icon back, but if you haven't done it, and you didn't click on this little device over here, there's going to be a little blue icon over the mobile device. When you click on that, you have to go in and adjust the layout for mobile. That way you're creating responsive designs. Okay, otherwise it's going to look a little crazy on mobile. Okay, so don't forget to do both. Okay, Figma files. Let me delete this. Do it later. So, delete. Bye, Amy. Okay, so let's take a look here for a second. Figma. You know what? This is a good one. Here I have a little mobile layout for a client project that I worked on a while ago. I actually didn't design out a desktop version because all I needed was the mobile version. Squarespace kind of did the rest for me. So remember when we say design mobile first? This is why. If it fits on mobile, it'll fit on desktop, no problem. So if I come into that client's website, let's go to the mobile view. You're gonna see pretty one for one. Let me just pull this over to the side, hide the UI. And then let me pull this over. There we go. So I know how to limit myself in Figma so that I'm designing things that I know Squarespace is capable of. This is going to take a little bit of time for you to get used to. Okay. So Figma is capable of doing a lot more than what Squarespace is able to do. Okay. But for you guys, since you're not developers, balance it out, right? So you can see here that I've actually made it a little bit more fancy in Squarespace. I added a little swoop under the image instead of it just being flat at the bottom. So little touches. But if I wanted it to be flat at the bottom, I would just come in here, edit the section, and then down here where it says divider, I would turn that off. Problem solved. I like the swoop, so I'm going to leave the swoop. But you're going to see one for one, everything is relatively the same. Instead of a square map, we went with a rectangular one. But everything else, exactly the same, right? So then when it comes to, let's look at our prototype here for this page. Where's my prototype? There we go. Give it a sec. Okay, so when I click on this, it bounces down, bounces back up. Micro interactions, animations, beautiful, right? So when I go to the therapy services page, click on that, bounces down, bounces up. Pretty cool, right? So this is the accordion feature in Squarespace. So you kind of have to know what Squarespace is capable of doing. So get in there and putz around a little bit. And then when you're designing your wireframes, you can limit yourself and think in sections, because that's how Squarespace works. Now, if you're designing a bigger product that isn't designed for Squarespace, go nuts, right? If you have a development team behind you, knock yourself out. But I do this so that I'm not just designing in Squarespace and I can see the entire thing and still connect user flows and all of that kind of stuff. Still planning. Does that help a little bit?
So did you actually like copy and paste to Squarespace?
No, I
Just
mean,
redid it.
the text, yes. So when I come in here to edit this, you can see I've got little text boxes, accordion boxes, and it's all the same content from one to the other. But it's not like, oh, I can just upload my Figma file to Squarespace and it's going to take care of it.
Right. Okay.
You still have to design it in Squarespace. So you're doing a little bit of double duty, but that's what a developer would do, right? So you're kind of taking over the developer's job in one sense for something simple like Squarespace. Cool.
Cool.
All right. How's everyone feeling?
Better.
Cool. Any questions? Squarespace related, unsquarespace related? Kelly, spiffy. I like that. Very cool. Any other questions? All right. That was a fun one. What'd you guys think? Thumbs up, thumbs down. I'll send out a little survey later and just get everyone's opinion. And then I do have every intention to upload this video to YouTube, and then you guys will be able to access it later. Cool.
This was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
It was really good.
All right, guys. Happy Saturday. Have a great weekend. Get lots of work done. Think about your portfolio a little bit, but don't get too into the weeds with it. Unless you're at portfolio stage, then knock yourself out. Cool. Have a great day, guys. See ya.
Thank you. Bye.